are at the probably second most asked about location, and that's the big business home in Cheviot Hills, where Laurel and Hardy destroys the house and Finn destroys their business of selling Christmas trees and their car. They pulled up here and left their truck here in their trees, and then they would have walked up to the house. And I don't think this sidewalk was quite that way, because as they walked across here, they had phony trees that were planted, and of course this block wall here wasn't there, or that big plant, and you could see the house so much better. But you can see the chimney on top. That's right there in the middle. And of course, the way the door is, it's still that direction. And where the windows are the same type of windows, and the ventilator that's right above, that is exactly the way it is. There is a little eye hole in the door. Obviously, it's not the same door because they demolished that, but Finn looked out to see who it was before he went, "Don't," and Laurel and Hardy tore off the numbers, which were 281 at the time. And I think it could have still been 10281, but taking off 3 numbers is pretty funny. But if you took off 5, it was kind of milking the gag, because they had so much more to do. So I'm not sure what the actual address was back in 1928, but the numbers would have been right there in the porch light as well. So pretty much this is it. It's just like it would have been in 1928.
I used to love watching the people come in these great big buses, and they would come out all dressed like Laurel and Hardy, and they were so excited to be next to that door.
Hal Roach always told the story that this was actually the wrong house. He would say that they rented the house from somebody and they went on holiday or vacation, and on the 3rd day, when they just about had everything tore down because the key didn't work in the door, they said, "We'll tear it down, we're going to put up another one anyway." And the family showed up just as they were finishing up and saw all the destruction to the house, and the wife fainted and said how terrible that was. But that was a good story, because it really was one of Hal Roach's employees that lived here, and Beanie Walker just lived down the street. So this was an area that a lot of the people at the studio lived, because the studio wasn't so far from here. And so they actually rented it all right, but they rented it from one of their own employees, and the employee well knew that they were using the house and what they were going to do with it, and knew that they were going to fix it back up when they were done. It was a lot of time between when he made that and when he started telling the stories. And he was 90 years old by the time he started telling that kind of stuff. So he may have thought it that way, or he just may have thought that was a good story. And when you outlive everybody, you can tell whatever you want to tell, and there's nobody here to say you're a liar. I'm at the first big business house before they went to Cheviot Hills. We're still in Culver City, and I was trying to make a U-turn to go back the other direction, and I came down this street here, and if you step right over here, you can see that rows and rows and rows of telephone poles. And I'm like, "Oh, gosh, that looks familiar." And there's only one block that I came around to make this U-turn, and I look over here on Caroline and Jacob, and that's a duplex. So then I take out the picture yet again and look and say, I think this is it. There's a shot of going back from the porch of Laurel and Hardy, and it shows this house here. But in the film, this house has a chimney, and there's no chimney there. So I thought, oh, maybe this isn't it, because who removes a chimney from a house, But I went over and knocked on their door. Now this was 1977, remember? So the same owners that had bought it in the 50s, I knocked on the door and they came and said, I said, "Any chance you guys used to have a chimney here?" And she said, "A matter of fact, we did, and we removed it in 1952. So that assured me that this was the location. This is, by looking at it, you can almost tell for sure, but when you find something out of sync, you kind of doubt yourself, and especially since you just stumbled on it. So this is when, again, I think the boys were in the back seat guiding me to this particular location. It was just by mistake that I found it, but there it was. They would have parked their car about where that white van is and got out of the car and went up to the first house, knocked on that door, and then of course didn't sell it. Instead of just walking over there, they got back in the car and then drove around the corner and got out and did it all over again. Cool location. We were in front of the hospital that was used in the finishing touch, where they're building a house just down the street, and they put up a sign that says Quiet Hospital. And Dorothy Colburn was the nurse, and she'd come out and tell Laurel and Hardy to be quiet. But none of these houses around here, they weren't up at all, and this was by itself. And it's exactly the way it appeared in the film, with the little balcony up there in the front, and the rectangular shaped windows and the chimney and the little vent holes up there. So this is another one that's virtually just like what it appeared in the film, and has very, very little remodeling done to it. We're still in Culver City, and we're at the location of where The Helpmates was filmed. And that was one I had been looking for a long time and never had any luck. So I didn't discover this one. This is Ollie coming home to his burned out home. And you see in the background this home here. And that would be this house right next door. That house. So this would be where they put up the phony house that they burned down, and this brick wall and so forth. And I think this is kind of not the back lot, but it is the Hal Roach Studios would have been right over here. So this was easy for the carpenters to come out and build the house and so forth. Now across the street, it's this house right over here. Those windows match up. And so that would be that house there. So there's another mystery solved with The Helpmates, and one of their best films too, might I add. The plaque was put up during the second International Convention of the Sons of the Desert. An 88-year-old Mr. Roach was there, and we dedicated that with the mayor of Culver City, who dedicated that day as Hal Roach Day, and he also dedicated the park where the plaque is as Hal Roach Park. Now, it's not actually where Hal Roach Studios was, but it's as close as we could get to it and put a plaque there. Again, Mr. Roach was a pioneer in doing television shows, and when he retired, Hal Roach Jr. took over it, and then it just became a different business, and things changed a lot, and eventually they closed the studios at the end of 1950s, and in 1963 they destroyed it altogether. We've seen these films over and over so many times that to be there is like our wonderland. It's our Disneyland that we go to. And to find these are amazing. People have found other things with computers, and it's amazing that people don't have to leave their kitchen. They find stuff on the internet. Back in the 70s when I did this, I just had either a still, or if a still didn't exist, which is probably the case because stills were $3 then, that's big bucks. I'd take a picture off of a screen and then drive up and down the streets hoping I'd hit a payday. And by God, when you hit one, it was like you won $1 million because, oh my gosh, look at this, could this be it? During the filming of Duck Soup, they would have been standing right about where we were until the director said action. And then they'd walk right around the corner here onto Main Street, Culver City. And about where this car is here, that's probably where they would have got on the bikes, and they would have headed off down Main Street. And of course, the next shot, they were in downtown Los Angeles. Also in two cars, they are driving their Model T, and they pull right around here too. And they're in their sailor suits and waving to a couple of pretty girls that are standing right here. And this building in the back hasn't changed too much, except it's been about 100 different stores. A pizza place just went out of business. And across the street here, where they're putting up the mall, that would have been where a We Fall Down wall would have been, and at the end of that, the alleyway. Of course, that's long gone. From Liberty. And Main Street would have gone straight across, and that's where, about where that signal is about where Jean Harlow was standing in Liberty, and this street would have gone all the way over to Washington Boulevard, but that's been a pedestrian way for about 25 years. We're going back in time. We're standing right where Laurel and Hardy filmed. It's a step back to a kinder and gentler time in motion picture history and in America history. So we're on the corner of Main Street and Culver in Culver City at a location where they filmed Hats Off, which is one of their lost films. Hopefully someday we will find it, but at this point there's only stills that are available for the fan. And at this location, they were in the middle of the intersection doing a deal with Hats Off. And you can see across the street, the rounded building is virtually unchanged from those days. And across the way here, where it would have been like a tuxedo shop, is now a print center. And that hasn't changed much from 1927 either. In fact, across the street, where it says yoga, Laurel and Hardy come around in their car on the way to the Bacon Grabber house to repossess Edgar Kennedy's radio. So they just turn around there, and the next shot after that is Cheviot Hills for Bacon Grabbers. So you have two films at this location. This is Bagley Avenue, which goes all the way down past the Bacon Grabbers location. And then on the other side of the alley, you can see where it says Main Street. And so that's Main Street, Culver City, and that goes just until that signal. And it's alleged that this is the shortest main street in the world.
There you go. Over there.
Yeah.
That's that corner.
That's that corner.
We've been flying this flag for 21 years. 1929. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
Yes.
Very cool.
That's Angola Love.
Uh-huh. And you see the Culver Hotel way down?
Yes. They did the movie in 1929. And this building was built in 1924. And they shot it in that corner over there. There's goats standing between them. And they were running up and down the street in the alleyway and so on. So if you go to the alleyway at the back of that white building, that was the Laurel and Hardy. They got a big, huge mural over there. Well, once a year, people, they come to visit and so on. They go over there. Very important landmark.
Yes, it is.
Once I saw you guys walking across the road, I thought, heavens above, that look like Lord. I said, I gotta go and stop them. So I thought I'd come and help you and let you know this is. I get people coming over here, two nuns from Italy.
Really?
They come and beg me to move the furniture so they can film it.
Wow.
Take a picture of it, rather. And they did, and a few weeks later, I had the picture in the mail and so on. So it's there you have it. History in Culver City, beautiful Culver City.
Very cool.
Absolutely.
There you go. Cool. Thank you.
Wonderful, guys.
Do you like goats yourself?
No, I'm not. No, don't start that rumor.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
My
very
pleasure.
much. Here we are at a Perfect Day house. This one is the #1 location that has not changed at all. It is so cool that they kept so much of this, just like it was back in 1929. So let me show you a picture. There it is, with Edgar Kennedy in the back. But look at that, the shutters are the same, the little windows the same, the little area to put flowers are the same. It's just amazing. All that is just remarkable how much they have not changed it. Now Baldwin Cook, who is the neighbor, there he is there after Stan went over and threw a brick in his window. The windows are all gone over there next door. And you can see how that has changed. Here's Stan with the water. He would have been running with the hose from where that palm tree was. Now about where this car is, they did this part. And they're looking at Baldwin Cook, but they're looking this direction. So that house on the right at 3115 is the friendly neighbors that started the goodbye. Bye. And then this house over here, the windows were like 12 single windows panes, and they switched it out so it's like now 4. So we don't see too much of the house, but what we see hasn't changed there. Back in 77, 76, when I started these adventures, one of the Way Out West members, Charles Beam, came up and said, you know where the Perfect Day house is, and he gave me the address as 3120 Vera Street. And I said, well, how do you know that? And he says, I was 7 years old and I was standing on the sidewalk watching them film it. How cool is that? I still get a kick out of it, even though almost every time we come, things have changed. If you look down this street right here, where that eatery is, that's where they laid down in the gutter and we fall down, and then the street cleaner came by and they got soaked. And it would be right about here. You can see the street changed, but it's gonna be even here. So we're thinking right about here is where they actually laid down. And then if you go back the other direction, this picture right there, would have been looking down this then street to see the Culver Hotel. Now, the last time I was here, the West End Hotel, which you can see with the street sweeper, was all boarded up, and I was afraid maybe they were going to tear that down. But luckily, unless you're staying there, they made it into a beautiful boutique hotel, and I imagine it's like $200 or $300 a night. But it was all boarded up when I was here like a year ago. That one survived, and it looks like it's going to be going good for a long time if people start frequenting there. It might be an apartment actually, so that would probably make more sense. But very cool. But you could see that was there, and if you look down a little farther, you see the Culver Hills, and kind of to the right over there, you see one oil derrick. But anytime you see those hills in a Laurel and Hardy film, there are all those oil derricks in there, and they're still pumping oil out of there today, 90 years later. I didn't expect to see you here today, and well, I didn't have anything else to do. Okay, we're about ready to come to the Culver City Hall. Now, back in the day, the City Hall was just this little building here, and what they did is, where it said City Hall, they just put County Hospital, or they put a court sign over there for going bye-bye. But after 1977, they destroyed the City Hall, because that's what it looked like there, and built this whole big block. But they took the facade apart piece by piece and they stored it. And allegedly, and I did see them stored over in a corner with little notes on them and everything, and they put it back together, so that's still part of the original facade. So that one was saved, and kudos to Culver City for doing that. Okay, now we've moved to actually underneath the facade of County Hospital and going bye-bye courtroom. And they have this thing here from the 1995 construction, and it opens up into what they call Heritage Park. And this is Heritage Park here. And then that takes you into the City Hall buildings. They actually have the City Council building in there, and there's some pictures of Laurel and Hardy in there as well. The two films that they used here were the County Hospital, as the hospital, of course, and then they went into the hard-boiled eggs and nuts. So that's the favorite part of the. Sometimes I rewind it just to watch that 2 or 3 times. And then, and going bye-bye, they come out and sit in that, and where this car was right here, this would be where they were sitting here when they came out and said, if I were you, I'd get out of town. Aren't you gonna hang him? You know, so that would have been taking place right there. We are in the Lafayette Square area of Los Angeles for the Love 'Em and Weep home. This was a silent film. There was what that looked like way back in the day. Look at this. Look at that tree. Now look at it. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And they tore the other one out on this other side. But look at the house here, another one that's virtually unchanged. The windows are all rounded at the top. All of the decorative art around the door is still there. Look at that light, it's exactly the same next to the window there. Pretty amazing. They walked out on their little sidewalk there, in the little curve, and they would have came right up here, and this is where they were trying to get out of and try to fool the wives. So just about where we are there. Now this was another Jimmy the Wily III find. He found this on his own. I had nothing to do with that. There was a street light that was right there next to the fire hydrant, and there it is. The little big, it grew too, just like the palm tree. But that's another cool location. Love 'Em and Weep.
As soon as Mr. Laurel arrives, call a taxi.
Yes, sir.
So I parked my car close to where the taxi pulled up, and me and my pal. This would have been right here. The sidewalk would have been used a little bit, but the house behind you, where they would have ran into, was never used. They went to the sound studio for this house. But across the street, you can see this house here and how the roof has changed. There's the little chimney, and then there's a drop down. The windows are rounded there too. They put up a phony fire hydrant because the taxi driver has a policeman come to give him a ticket while they're working on the jigsaw puzzle.
A ticket for you.
Across the street here, the greenhouse would be this house right here, and those two scenes there. And the house next to it is that corner there. And you can see that that is identical as well. So this was definitely where the cab pulled up, and me and my pal, and then Finlayson finally pulled up with his limousine to go inside to get the boys who are still working on that jigsaw puzzle. So, amazing find. Jimmy the Wiley III was at it again. He found this one. We are at 1750 West 22nd Street, and this is the still from their Purple Moment. And actually they started out walking that way, and then the wife came out to see where they were going, and they quickly turned the other direction. You can see 1750, which is the only clue I had. And I looked all over Culver City for this, and I never did find it. And I'm not sure who found it. And the reason I didn't find it in Culver City, because it's near downtown Los Angeles. Why they came out here is any man's guess. Sadly, this big fence is here, but this is the house. And then the house next door, right there, porch area, this house here, and that area over there. It's where the old biddy shows up. And follow me, we'll go over here to the side. And if you look down this little walkway, the house to the right, that part there, and this is this window right here before the chimney. And those 4 windows are going 1, 2, 3, 4 right there. And then there's a break and another window there with another little A-frame. Now, you wonder where the old biddy was walking from. It's on this street here, but if you look closely, the street doesn't go just straight, it jets out a little bit. You can see the big gate, but it has the stairs that come out to the street, or sidewalk. That street across the way, the curb is jetted out so far. They're kind of standing right there where that tree is, and the curb comes out. That she would have been walking on the sidewalk, but the sidewalk across the street is a little bit different. We're on Madison Avenue in Culver City, and we were looking where they filmed Hog Wild in 1930. Now, this actual house here wasn't here at the time, and I understand there was a facade made for them to climb up onto the roof. And so how I found this, remember I took pictures off of the screen and went up and down the street? Well, where Ollie rolled off of the roof, there was a picture of the house next door, kind of a Spanish style 2-story house, and that would be the house next door. So that is how I found this particular location, not from this location where there was no house, but from there. And then if you go up on the roof with Ollie, you can see across the street that house is still located right there. That house way over there, the white one. And you can see the chimney and the entranceway that's curved.
Well, it was in Culver City. It was easy to get to, easy to film. And you notice these 2 very large palms? When they filmed Hog Wild here, the palms were about this high. And look at them now. You can't even see the second one. I bought this in 1999, and I remember seeing this house in the films, but there's a nice big house in the back, and I rent out the front, and people come by every once in a while to say, hey, look at that.
My house here. The house that was actually the house in the movie sits in the back, way back here. when they filmed it. In fact, you can still see the garage. It's a small garage, and it's a carriage house, as they call it. Our house was the house where they probably had all their film crew set up, because every time that they would pull in the driveway, it was always shooting this way.
And the crew would have been here.
Yeah, that's what it would have been.
This would have been the park up and get all the kids out.
My understanding is that they built a facade out there. Right. A person coming up taking the census knocked on the door, and they said, "Oh, they're gone, but they'll be back tonight." By the time they came back tonight, the whole thing was gone. So there was no house. So you can only imagine what the census taker thought.
I've owned the house 20 years now, the property. It's nice. It's nice as there's history. Culver City is full of movie history, you know. So no, it's great. I've seen the movie that was, and you see these palm trees as babies.
Yeah.
And the Spanish duplex next door, and this house is just in the back.
You can also see on the roof that there's the MGM water tower on one side and another water tower the other, and the Culver Hills was that close. Exactly. So it gave me a good area. It's still a good size area, but it took a while to hone in on it. We did that in 1977.
Well, beautiful. That's awesome.
This here, we're on 2nd Street and 48th Street, and this is where they did most of the last scene of County Hospital. But this has changed quite a bit. The round doorway is still there, but everything on this other side down to this other door here is all blocked off. The windows are pretty much still the same, and so is the roof, and that telephone pole is right in the way there as well. So looking out to our left, which is 2nd Street, this is where all of this was filmed. I found this by this little dentist office or tailor shop. It's one or the other, I forgot what it was, but it had a person's name, and I looked up, I have a 1927 telephone book, and he was still here in 27, and that's how I found this location, because this is nowhere near Culver City. The streetcar would have came down right in the middle of 2nd Street, which is now a turning lane. The last location today, it should have been going bye-bye, but it's County Hospital instead. And I hope you enjoyed all of the locations. I certainly enjoyed being there again too. Next time you get some time off, why don't you come over and see for yourself? There's some amazing locations, and hopefully they'll still be here when you come.
Bye.